time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does on a Wednesday. Thank you, Chad Erickson. Great to have you all with us. This is a special show today. It really is. We're going to go tons of NFL draft coverage, and we're going to sandwich it around some NBA playoff talk with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. So enjoy. Bill Bender coming up later on in the show to talk about some of these great prospects that are about to head into the NFL. And we start things out in the draft with this guy, the great Nick Ferguson, former NFL safety, and as Sam Yarnell always likes to point out, former Buffalo Bill great. Joins us on the program as well. All right, we've gone backwards and forwards on this stuff, and I will ask you about Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders in particular. But now that it's here, and there's still more postulating to go on, between now and the first pick in the draft, and there could be trades. By the time you watch this show, who knows? There could be all sorts of deals. How do you envision the top of this draft playing out, Nick?
I'll look at it as playing out, I guess, the way that it's been orchestrated to this point. And what I mean is that the Titans are going to stay at number one, right? They've made it known. They put out a video. We are going to stay at number one. The question is, will that actually happen? Because, as we know, talk is cheap. And once other teams start throwing ideas of draft picks, all of that can change. Now, we do know that they need a quarterback. And most teams like to use that first-round pick on a quarterback because they need that fifth year. That's what they're trying to get. So, I mean, that's kind of where I see it shaking out. And then beyond that first pick in the first round, we really don't know because Cleveland is sitting at number 2. Are they going to take a quarterback in Cam, or they're going to take a guy like, Travis Hunter? All I can tell you is when I went to the the Colorado Buffaloes showcase, there were a lot of individuals there. You got a helmet behind you with the Giants. There were a lot of those Giants coaches and front office staff that were there. Were they there to see Travis? Were they there to see Shedeur? We still don't know. But the Cleveland Browns, they were there. Andrew Berry was there. Haslam was there. I mean, they were looking, they were checking out. And I don't think they were looking for Shedeur. I think all eyes was on, Travis Hunter because as talented as he is. So beyond that, we really don't know. What would the Patriots do? All right. Are they going to go corner if Travis Hunter's still on the board? Are they going to go offensive lineman, which they desperately need? Then after that, the Jaguars, right? Ashton Jeanty would still be on the board at that point. Now, there was some rumors earlier this week that maybe the Jags might be interested in Ashton Jeanty. And I'm like, well, why would they do that? They already have a couple of running backs and Travis Etienne being one of those guys. They need to find other options as far as pass catching options for their quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. So things are going to start to get interesting after the Titans are on the board.
All right, let me flush this out real quick, Sam, and then you could ask a question. Because you mentioned Sanders and Hunter and what you saw at their pro day. Has Shedeur, forget Hunter for a second, has Shedeur Sanders been treated fairly in this process?
No, he hasn't. And that goes without saying because if we look in drafts in the past, the same thing has happened. There's been maybe a handful of quarterbacks, let's say 3 or 4, and usually one of those quarterbacks start to get the bulk of the conversation when everyone's constantly talking about him. But with Shedeur, it's been opposite. It's been really negative. And the problem that I have is that you have scouts and front office people saying anonymous things. They're not putting their name on it. So we don't really know who's saying it and if it is actually legit or not. But these kind of narratives have led to, I guess, Shedeur actually sliding. And if I was advising Shedeur, and I know he and Cam Ward have this rivalry, it's just like, man, don't worry about going in the top 10. Don't worry about going number 1 overall. The idea is going to the right place, right? It's not when you go, it's where you go. We've seen that because we've seen a lot of quarterbacks drafted in the first round go to a miserable team. They want you to turn the team and organization from Clark Kent to Superman, and it's very difficult to do that if you don't have the proper supporting cast. So for me, I think it's great. This would be great if it happened this way, guys. If Shedeur fell to the Pittsburgh Steelers. In his mind, he would feel as though I dropped, but no, you went to one of the better organizations in the NFL because remember, guys, they've only had 3 head coaches in the organizational history.
Nick, when we talk about Travis Hunter, I'm curious from your perspective, what is that transition going to be like to the NFL? Obviously, you've been in the meeting rooms, in the team rooms for DBs and stuff like that. And the discussion around Hunter right now is really what's his split going to be in the National Football League? Is it going to be 80-20 wide receiver? Is it going to be 50-50 wide receiver? What do you think that transition is going to be like from a cornerback perspective for him to be a wide receiver primarily, but still have to join in on those meetings in the DB room and still have to run through drills as a DB?
Well, he's already done that, Sam, already. And he has translatable skills by playing as many plays at wide receiver as he did at DB. One of the more decorated guys in college football. Now, what it's going to come down to is how these teams who are drafting, how they view him. The first thing I would do, I would leave him on the defensive side for right now and then put in small packages so he can work and learn the offensive part of it. Because most people are thinking, well, it's going to be very difficult for him to do it in the pros. Well, hell, he did it in college football and he did it at a high level. The idea is, taking him through the rigors of understanding an NFL playbook and just walking him through them, piecemealing it, giving him, a couple of plays here, a couple of plays there, and just building on the package. We're not going to see him do the same thing in the league as he did in college football, but we know the skill set is there, and it would be a shame if some head coach or owner just allowed him to just play one position. This is a very talented guy. He's a unicorn. We've never seen a guy like this before. But to me, the idea is starting him off on the defensive side and give him a couple of touches from an offensive standpoint.
We only got about 30 seconds here, Nick, in this segment. We're going to hold you over. But it feels like the offseason workouts, rookie camp, all of those things feel like they're going to mean a lot, especially to him more than maybe anybody else.
Well, I want to say it's not going to mean, to everyone else, but to me, it's a learning process. You're going from the collegiate game, a different system under Pat Shurmur, right? And Robert Livingston. Now you walk into an NFL organization. What is it that they like to do? How they want to feature you? That's going to be all important. How they use this kid's ability.
Nick Ferguson's going to hang out for one more segment. He is in Denver. So I do have to ask him about the Broncos as well, coming off a playoff season with Bo Nix, obviously a quarterback. We'll talk about that with him and a whole bunch more. Sports Wrap continues. Stay with us. Coming up in 10 minutes, NBA Talk with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk and NBC Sports Radio. Hanging out with former NFL safety Nick Ferguson. KOA Radio in Denver, too. Forgot that. Does some sports talk there as well. All right, Sam Yarnell, let's talk about the Broncos.
Yeah, Jason, Nick, I'm curious. This is a loaded running back class, and I think a lot of people would tell you that, right? The Denver Broncos are a team that obviously the Javonte Williams experiment didn't quite work out as well as they would have hoped. Is it as simple for them at 20 as just take whichever one of these running backs is available, whether it be one of the Ohio State running backs, or are we trading up to get Genty? What do you feel about what the Broncos should do with their first round pick?
Well, first and foremost, we do know the Broncos are in desperate need of a run game of any sort. Now, there are a bevy of great running backs, so the Broncos have the luxury of deciding whether you're going to stay pat at 20 or move back. And the idea of trading up for any player, Ashton Genty, as talented as he is, I say hell no. I said, if you're sitting at 20, no matter how things work out ahead of you, you move back, right? Because desperation by that time the Broncos started to pick would start to set in, because we don't know what's going to happen in the first 8 picks. There's always going to be something surprising. And for the first time, every single team has their first round pick and they have not traded. Once Roger Goodell says, Titans, you're on the clock, everyone's going to feel that pressure. So my thing is, have the Broncos move back. Like you said, Sam, there's a bunch of talented running backs, so you don't have to reach for one. Now, I will tell you that Amarian Hampton, a North Carolina back, you mentioned Javonte Williams, I happen to know that Sean Payton likes this particular back, and here's why he likes him. It reminds him of a running back he used to have in New Orleans in Deuce McAllister. So I always tell people when we look at the draft and Sean Payton and the Broncos, he's always going to dig in the bag that he's familiar with. The comps. What guy currently in this draft reminds him of someone else he had previously because of the offense he wants to run? But no matter which back that you take, Trevion Henderson out of Ohio State, I happen to like Quinshon Judkins out of Ohio State. It really doesn't matter which guy you take. If you don't really build a system and you're consistent with your play calling, it really doesn't make a difference which back that you take. We do know that the Broncos need a running back for sure.
What's the fan base calling for there?
Well, the fan base is calling for a running back, right? They're calling for a running back. And the luxury is, like I just told Sam, is that you have other running backs. But I pay close attention to what coaches say. Last week, GM George Paton and Sean Payton had a pre-draft kind of press conference. And Sean Payton was pressed on, well, what are you doing for Bo? Do you allow Bo to come in? What was his level of input? And you can tell Sean was getting really frustrated, but he responded with every single question like this. Well, the way you help out your quarterback and you help out Bo is you build your defense. And I say, wait a minute. I mean, he said that 3 times. Does that mean that the Broncos are going to take this draft and still go heavy defense? Could they go with that 20th pick? Could they go D lineman and shock the hell out of everyone? I wouldn't be surprised because here's what he knows. And we all know this. We just watched Kansas City get dismantled by Philadelphia and Vic Fangio's defense by only getting pressure with 4 guys. And I like to think that Sean Payton is enamored by that because the more defensive stops that you receive, it's more opportunities for his quarterback. So he wants to feed his quarterback. And it seems like an untraditional way of thinking according to Sean Payton, but he understands that Kansas City and Justin Herbert are in your division and in your conference, and you just look at the AFC as a whole. It's a murderous row of quarterbacks. So you have to do something to stop them because they got dog stomped by Buffalo in the wild card game.
Nick, as we look towards the maybe later stages, as you were saying, they could potentially trade back for a running back. Would you see them not on day 1, but on day 2, the way that offense is constructed, potentially trading up in the 2nd or 3rd round to get one of these tier 2 wide receivers and add another weapon around Bo Nix to that offense? Or do you think they'll be, because of what Sean Payton said, limited in an offensive capacity this draft, maybe 1 or 2 players and go very defense heavy?
Well, I can see them trading up and doing that. I know the Broncos have said, hey, listen, we are happy with our wide receiver room. And I would like to think that maybe that is just putting that out there, but I don't think they're as satisfied as they say that they are. And here's why. When you look at the AFC as a whole, it's an arms race. If you don't have those dogs outside, it's going to make it difficult for your quarterback. And yes, they added Evan Ingram. Yes, they're going to draft a running back, but that's not going to make life easier for you. You have to have more weapons. I just think about some of those quarterbacks and those teams that were just rolling offensively. I think about the 49ers when they went to the Super Bowl. I think about Kansas City when Tyreek Hill was there and they had a great running game and they had great tight ends and they could stretch the field vertically. That's where this game is. This game is being played in 11 personnel. If you have an inline tight end, it's not going to work. You need a guy that can stretch the field. So adding more offensive weapons will help, and then just kind of make sure that the guys in your wide receiver room, they don't suffer from that one thing that we all suffer from as people, is being complacent.
Complacency? Never.
Yes.
Never. All right, I gotta let you go here in a minute, but I got Kurt Helin coming up in a couple of minutes. I know you've got a thought on the Nuggets here. I know you have a thought on the Nuggets, who are 1-1 going back to the Intuit Dome to take on the Clippers in Game 3. All right. Come on. I think the Clippers win the series. Sam's been high on the Nuggets. Where are you?
Well, being here in Denver, they're not going to like this, but I like the Clippers in this matchup. I mean, you look at the back half of the season, I think they went 18-3. When you look at Kawhi, I mean, he's looking like vintage Kawhi. And when the game needed to be closed out in game two, who showed up? The Claw showed up. The Claw showed up playing defense, and it's almost like when we will not lose game two. We lost game one, and they turned the ball over 20 times. And it was kind of unheard of in Kawhi's career that he turned the ball over 7 times in game one. He wasn't going to allow that to happen. Now you split in Denver. You get a chance to go back to your home court and say what you want to say about James Harden not playing defense. That dude, he's a walking bucket. So I'm going to roll with the Clippers because they've been the most impressive team.
Wow. Sam Yarnell, how you feeling right now?
I'm on an island, and I'd rather be nowhere else, Jason Page. Best island ever.
Hey, Nick, enjoy the draft, my friend. It's always good to catch up with you.
All right, guys, be good.
All right, we're coming back. Kurt Helin joins us on the other side. Pro basketball talk at NBCSports.com. What did he make of the Lakers' ugly win over the T-Wolves? That and a whole bunch more. Welcome back to this Wednesday edition of SportsWrap. Oh, I've been chomping at the bit to talk to this guy all week. Whew, I got a lot to get off my chest, Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. I got a lot to get off my chest. And it's the first, 2 games of some of these series, and I've got so much to say. All right, let's start with the Lakers. All right, who win last night. But my God, and this isn't just an argument on the Lakers. It's an argument on the playoffs in the first couple of games of some of these. Do people know the playoffs have started? Have some of these teams realized this is the postseason and this is what you play 82 games for during the regular season? Because at times, I don't feel like I'm watching playoff basketball.
Yeah, look, it's been a little up and down. Well, there's some mismatches.
A little?
I think the one series that's lived up to it, and we'll get to, I'm sure, it is Denver and the Clippers. That has felt like a playoff series.
Yes.
But the Lakers played that first game, like it was a Tuesday night in March, something like it was. They were just cruising, but they did come out and punch back in game two, and Minnesota was unprepared for the physicality, which was kind of the surprise. I thought they'd come out and try to close the door. They got punched in the mouth. They got behind in the first quarter. And, man, there's positives you can take away from Minnesota. I think that they can actually feel good going home. But that was not a great performance. And
No. And I mean, I watch them, and Minnesota showed up midway through the third quarter of that game. And the Lakers started acting like the game was over after halftime, and they're throwing the ball around, and it's lackadaisical, and there's turnovers. Nobody could hit a three. And I'm watching this going, is this play? What am I watching? I literally put up a post last night on social media saying, what are we watching?
The Lakers not hitting a three is an issue because that was a concern coming in. Look, they're a great shooting. They're a good shooting team on paper. But in practice, you can make life difficult from them from the arc, and I think you're going to see that more from Minnesota in the coming months, right? In the coming games, I should say, coming weeks. Here's why I feel good if I'm Minnesota. The Lakers scored 94 points last night. They won. They scored 94 points. They have not figured out your defense. Luka's putting up numbers. LeBron had a good stat line, but they haven't taken over a game. They haven't put up 110. They haven't got out and played it. The kind of style of basketball with their offense they want to play. And I don't know that they can keep holding Minnesota down like that. They got a good game from them, but Naz Reid isn't going to be in foul trouble and Dante DiVincenzo. They're not going to miss shots like this in another game. I think the Lakers are going to have to work hard to get the split. They're going to have to play better to get the split in Minnesota and come back to this thing tied.
Let's talk about the other 2 games last night. Bucks lose for the second straight game. They get Lillard back. They make a run late in that game to make a game of it, but ultimately come up short. Does it portend anything, them being able to do what they did late in that game? Does it carry over to Milwaukee? Do you give them any sort of shot to come back down 0-2?
No, not really. I think you're the first radical move of the playoffs. The first, oh my gosh, we got to do something big move is coming. There's going to be a change to the starting lineup in Milwaukee for Game 3. Watch. I think you're very probably Brooke Lopez going for Bobby
Wow.
Portis. They're going to do something. It hasn't worked for them. It hasn't flowed, and I think you're going to see major changes there. The other problem is Lillard came back now, a little rusty. He's missed a month, but Andrew Nembhard kept him in check. It was like the Andrew Nembhard game. I know that Siakam and Halliburton got the number 17 points and hit some key threes, but kept Lillard in check. They can't get enough scoring from anybody else, enough shot creation from anybody that's not named Giannis, who's been brilliant. I think the Bucks are in serious trouble. Is this thing over at 5? Like, I can literally see that happening.
Nembhard had Giannis on skates a couple of times in that game.
He had a really great game.
Yeah, and it kind of reminded me of playoff Nembhard from last year against the Knicks, where he just tormented that team. By the way, we'll get to the Knicks in the next segment. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about them. Are people starting to realize, and I get it, some of this is matchup dependent, and the Grizzlies are a bit of a train wreck. They fire their head coach right before the end of the regular season. But are people starting to realize, oh, this is why the Thunder had the best record in the NBA?
I hope so. I got a feeling that they're going to have to do it in the next round against somebody. I think the questions out of this series are, well, Oklahoma City looks ready. Let's not take anything away from them. They've had 2 big wins. I mean, they only won by 19 in the second game, and they still haven't had a good Shea game. And not really. I mean, they really haven't had the MVP or MVP runner-up, probably the MVP, have his kind of game yet. So they're just winning on pure talent right now. I think the bigger question is, man, Memphis. There's some changes coming there this offseason. They've got some hard decisions to make. This group doesn't quite. A few years ago, this looked like the up-and-coming team in the league. They do not anymore, and they've got some real decisions about what direction they want to go ahead of them.
I mean, they were a potential 2 seed at one point this year. Like, what happened?
I think that was a bit of a mirage, that they're not a great half-court team. I guess Ja is going to start having to answer the questions that we're asking about
Trae Young. That's exactly.
Can you build a winner around him? Can you really build a winner around him?
Who do you think you could build a winner around more easily? I hate to say this is going to sound nuts coming from me, for anybody who's watched the show. I actually think it's Trae Young.
I would actually, between those two, I was going to say, I thought you meant on the Grizzlies. I'm like, Jaren Jackson Jr. No, I think Trae actually, Trae sets up his teammates better. He was, for all the flaws we want to pick in his game, he's 24-11 this year. Like, I don't know that you can build a team that makes a deep playoff run with him. You'd have to put really specific players around him. But I think Trae, and by the way, Trae tried harder on defense this year. I will give him that. The effort level was much better.
Yeah, I agree with that. But, man, I've been impressed with the Thunder. And, boy, they make you pay in transition. Yeah. Like, you miss a shot and you blink and they're at the other end of the floor, Kurt. I mean, they are lethal in transition.
And lethal with 3. Like, they've got guys who will, Jalen and Shea, and people who just want to go and get to the rim. But Chet knows to run back and get to the arc, right? Other guys spread out, and they're deep with shooting and defense. That's the other advantage they have. Along them in Boston don't roll out bad defenders.
And boy, oh boy, man, the Hartenstein addition they made in the offseason, as much as it helped them, it killed the Knicks. I mean, he was such a glue guy for that team. Ugh.
How much do you use him right now? Yeah.
No kidding. We'll talk about the Knicks and Pistons series, also the Clippers and the Nuggets, which is going to be a banger the rest of the way as well, with Kurt Helin, who's hanging out with us on SportsWrap. All right, one more segment with Kurt Helin of Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com, whose dog is wandering around just outside, just sort of in camera range, but not in camera. It was great. I was more enamored watching the dog in the very corner, just looking in, like, hey, can I come back in yet?
Yeah, he's happy. He's out back. He's chasing birds. He's happy.
Oh, man. I want to do a dog cam in studio because my dog just lays in the corner of the studio. I just want to put a dog cam in the studio so people can look at the dog, because dogs make everything better, and everybody smiles when they see dog videos these days. All right, let's talk about the Knicks and Pistons. So they split the first 2 games. You can make the argument the Pistons have been better for the vast majority of those first 2 games, Kurt. And the Knicks cannot continue to play from behind as they have in this series and think they're going to come out of here with a win.
No, especially now heading back to Detroit, where in theory their role players should be more comfortable. They should get a little more bench play because it's been rough. If it wasn't for that 21-0 run in game 1, this would be a really bad look for them right now.
Yeah.
And they've got to get more out of Cat, for one. Like, I think it's he was not good in game 2. He has got to be better, much better off. Look, they're going to have to outscore them. They don't have the defenders. They don't have, I mean, as good as OG is, Cade's going to get his. They've got guys who can open up. You're going to have to get a lot more points on the board. And Brunson's been fine, but I think you're going to need more out of Cat, and you're going to need some of those shooters. Just, you're going to need a hot OG night. You're going to need a hot night from somebody else to make this happen.
Is Tibbs complaining about Brunson? We see this every year in the playoffs. 1 or 2 coaches that complain their stars aren't getting the calls, that sort of thing. Is he just trying to set it up to maybe get a couple more whistles, especially on the road in Detroit?
Yes. I mean, that's what this is. It's every time you see it, it's somebody, it's a coach consciously saying, hey, I'll pay the $25,000 for the call, some calls down the line. I will take this. It's a knowing decision. I'll also give Tibbs this. That was a pretty, I think he has a case on some moments in game.
Oh my God. Yes.
I'm not a guy who gets on the refs. It felt tilted in that game at points.
It's not even just, but Kurt, not to cut you off, but I'm glad you brought this up because I mentioned it on, Monday's show. What the hell are we seeing in the postseason with officiating where all of a sudden it's no blood, no foul? Like, it has gotten so incredibly physical to almost that Warriors-Rockets game, and we'll talk about that series. We'll segue into it now. I mean, that looked like 90s Knicks-Pacers basketball. What the hell is the league doing just allowing for a completely different style here in the playoffs?
They've done that always a little, but it does seem like they're letting more go. That the Lakers Timberwolves series is really physical, but you're right. Houston, Golden State, Houston wants to be physical, and they weren't able to execute their offense against the physicality of the Warriors defense. But the league wants this. They want that look in the postseason, and they let it go a little more. And
then why have a regular season where you call it one way and you set us up for a postseason where it's 98-94?
I think it's a fair question because the defenses I think you get more attention to detail from the defenses. They're drilled down a little more. But if you let the physicality go, you also run the risk of, look, Jason Tatum is going to miss a game or 2.
Yeah.
But that could have been much worse. And if you start allowing some stuff, granted, they eventually gave the flagrant on that. But if you let the physicality go up, then you're going to lose a star or 2.
Yeah.
Like there's a line there. I mean, I think we all want a little more physicality in the game, particularly allowed on the perimeter. But there's a line there.
You're going to see fights. And you're going to potentially see some fracases. I didn't think I'd use that word today on the show. Potentially. In that Rockets series, are we finding out why people weren't believers in the Rockets even as a 2 seed? Because I feel bad right now.
I look, and I picked against them. I still think it's a longer series. They'll win a game or 2, but this is what we said going into that series. And the other team that's really lived up to this is Orlando, where they've played to the script. They don't have enough offense. If they can't get stops and get out and run, Houston can't get enough buckets. And who's their shot creator? Who's the guy who just gets them a bucket in the half court? That's really not who Şengün is by nature. Like, he helps a little. He's a good, I want to take anything away. He almost made me all-NBA team. But he's not throwing the ball. He'll go get you a bucket guy. Amen Thompson is trying to take over that role. I don't know if he's that guy. I don't know. Maybe he can develop into that guy, but he's not that guy today in this series.
Save the best for last. How good has Kawhi Leonard been? I mean, this has been special. This has been so much fun watching him play at this level, Kurt.
It has been a throwback, right? And I was saying, I wrote about this. It's not even just a throwback to like Toronto Kawhi. This is a lot more like San Antonio Kawhi. He is ability to get to his spots and knock down shots. And you can't stop him when he gets going. it was crazy. And I'll tell you that last game where he was, 11 of 15 or whatever it was, shooting for 39 points, like ridiculous.
15 of 19. 15 of 19.
That's right. 15 of 19. Sorry. The ridiculous efficiency with which a 92 true shooting percentage for the game, that was as close to heat check Kawhi. There was a couple shots where you're like, he's just like, I'm going to see if this goes in. Like it was, and he doesn't do that. He is such a guy who plays within himself and just gets to his spots and is robotic. And he was kind of like, wow, I'm hitting everything. Let's see what this does.
Yeah, I think they win that series, Kurt.
I picked them in 7. I think this is, if you're just a fan of sports, that's the series you got to tune into. They have played 96 minutes of regulation basketball separated by 1 point. Like these are two evenly matched teams that are going to be physical with each other. It's great basketball.
I think Knicks Pistons goes 7 games as well. I'm now convinced that winds up being a 7-game series based on what I've seen in the first 2 games. And I think the Pistons are only going to grow more confident as we continue to go. Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com. Check him out there. I always appreciate you, my friend. Be well.
Hey, take care of yourself, buddy.
We're coming back. Bill Bender next. Welcome back to the show. We got a busy one today. I wasn't joking. We talked with Nick Ferguson about the NFL draft, got it from the pro side, a little bit on the Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter stuff. Talked with Kurt Helin, NBA playoffs. Few interesting results last night. Now, let's get back to the draft. Talk about it from the collegiate standpoint, and our guy for college football throughout the entire season was this man, Bill Bender, who joins us from the Sporting News, hangs out with us on the show, also writes some NFL stuff over at the Sporting News as well. And we're talking draft. All right. You've seen all the mock drafts. We've probably gone through it up and down a million times. What do you think happens in the first round, at the top of the first round, obviously beyond Cam Ward on Thursday night?
Yeah, I was going to say after Cam Ward. And I think Cleveland, Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter makes sense. I do think they'll end up going Travis Hunter. But there is a little groundswell this morning that it could be Carter. Now, to me, why draft Abdul Carter when you already have Myles Garrett? Now, on one hand, you could say you put 2 devastating pass rushers on Jim Schwartz's defense. My comeback to that is you need a lot of other stuff.
But did anybody watch the Eagles in the Super Bowl? I mean, being able to get to the quarterback can make a difference.
It can, but the Browns need a running back and a quarterback and a receiver. And, they had 4 interceptions last year as a team. So, I mean, if Travis Hunter wants to play both ways, you let Travis Hunter play both ways, especially for a team that had a league low 4 interceptions.
Bill, as we look around all the different positions, and something I think I've heard a lot from different draft analysts going into this week is it's starters over stars, right? This is a draft riddled with guys who are going to be in starting 22s around the NFL, but it's not your name brand talent riddled throughout the draft like there was, say, last year. I wondered from your position, what do you think is the deepest position in this draft? I've kind of bounced around with this. There are a ton of great edge guys. There are a ton of offensive tackles in this draft. But when we look back at this draft, I don't know, at the end of next regular season, which position do you think is the deepest and where is there the most talent to be fielded?
Running back. I mean, running back's super deep.
Yep.
When you can go all the way down to Cam Scatterbo, who they're saying is a 4th-round pick. Both Ohio State guys are going to play in the league and I think play well. Travion and Judkins. Ashton Jeanty could be, when I don't do the Barry Sanders comparison or the Saquon comparison, but I think he's going to be a legit impact running back for years to come. And I really like Amari and Hampton. Hampton had back-to-back 1,500-yard seasons in the ACC, a lot of yards after contact. I always sort that one out because these guys are going to get hit now. How do they run after they get hit? Scatterbo, Hampton, Jeanty, they all pass that test.
Very interesting. And in the case of Jeanty, where do you think, when you look at the, sort of where everybody's drafting, how high do you think he winds up going?
Well, if the Jaguars take him, That would be very interesting to me because Jacksonville needs other things too. They need some offensive line help. I think they could take Mason Graham as their defensive line. But, man, that would spice up the draft if they went with Ashton Genty and, give Trevor Lawrence another running back. And obviously they do have ETN. But anywhere from 5 to 10. Now, a couple other options there. We mentioned the Raiders, the Bears. You give Caleb Williams, Ashton Genty, that's not bad. And then do the Cowboys come up and try to get a running back like him? Wouldn't be surprised if something like that happened, where the Cowboys are the most interesting thing in the draft for me. Do they trade up? Do they take Shador and invite that entire soap opera in? Ugh. Because that would overtake the entire draft if they do that.
Which I don't think Jerry Jones would mind doing.
Or do they go with the classic Jerry Jones mindset of it's a first-round pick, we're going to take the best player that's available, don't care about the baggage, don't care about our depth at the position. Could also go that way. I wanted to talk about the wide receivers for a second, Bill, because it seems like over the course of, the last 3 months, the Teteroa McMillan narrative has kind of shifted back and forth and back. This is a player who you and I talked about during the college football regular season and how electric he was at Arizona, but in the wide receiver class where we've got Matthew Golden, where Jaden Higgins has come on, and obviously Egbuka is one who we've seen perform throughout the college football regular season. Is Teteroa McMillan to you the standout number one overall wide receiver in this class?
Maybe, and that's the problem. He can be when he's the 300-yard guy that he had 300. I forget. I think it was New Mexico in the opener. He had a huge game, and then there were games where these concerns showed up. How hard is he playing? How much does he how much does he love football question is tough for me, because if they've been doing this their whole lives, how could you not? How could you answer that question and make it to be this good? It has to be an obsession. I like Emeka Egbuka a lot at Ohio State. I think you kind of trust the pipeline at this point. I used a Tommy Boy reference earlier in the week about, having a guarantee on the box. Well, the Ohio State receivers, it's the closest thing to having it, right? Like that, you don't need that guarantee. You've watched these Ohio State guys play through the pipeline, and by the way, Tommy Boy still holds up 30 years later.
Yeah, by the way, you mentioning Tommy Boy to Sam is probably lost on him.
Is it way over his head right now?
Yes, we're old, Bill. We're old.
That's not.
We're old.
How have you?
I know, it holds up. I agree with you. And
it's set in Ohio, so I'm always going to be in when it comes on AMC, Jason.
I'm with you as well. Rob Lowe losing his shirt to the suction machine and towards the. I mean, there's so many great scenes in that movie. Bill Bender's going to hang out for one more segment. Yes, we're doing a guest in the final segment of the show because we've got NFL draft to talk about, and there is plenty more to get into with Bill Bender of the Sporting News, and we'll do it as we continue with Sports Wrap. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby. Before we do, make sure to check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, anywhere you get a podcast. You can also watch us over on Spotify every day, in addition to our 220 TV affiliates across the country and across all of Canada. And make sure to check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Clips from the show, Sports Wrap shorts, you name it. Not clothes, shorts, as in short clips from the show. Without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends with Bill Bender of the Sporting News. Sporting News. He talks college football and NFL there. Sammy Arnell rejoins us as well. All right, Sam, go ahead. Odds and ends.
Bill, we got to talk about Jalen Milroe, because we've been talking so much about these draft narratives and Teteroa McMillan in the last segment and how his draft stock flew all over the place. My gosh, let's go back 2 years and talk about Jalen Milroe's draft stock in the NFL. And now, today, the day before the draft, people are pretty much considering him not even a first-round pick. They're hanging odds for what team will draft Jalen Milroe, and right now the Cleveland Browns are the favorite. Do you buy in on the Cleveland Browns draft drafting Jalen Milroe, Bill, and where do you think he goes in terms of rounds? Is it second round? Is he a third round, fourth round guy? I don't think he's a Spencer Rattler fifth round faller, but where do you see Jalen Milroe landing?
Round 3-ish. I read, earlier in the process, an NFL GM, it was an article, I think Yahoo posted it. The Rams would be a good fit with him. And that's that struck me that, give him a year with McVay, develop. He's not going to start right away, but there are some things about Jalen Milroe that the mobility you like. The leadership, playing at Alabama for 2 years can't be easy. And he won the Campbell Trophy, which, what's the Campbell Trophy? It's basically the academic Heisman. I knew his intangibles were going to be off the charts. I think he'll be in that run of day 2 quarterbacks, which we might have in that round 3, not just him, Quinn Ewers, Will Howard, Kyle McCord. All of those guys are going to be lumped together.
That's interesting with the day 2 quarterbacks, but do you think which one of those outside of Jalen Milroe do you think could potentially be a difference maker? Because when we talk about this draft so much, it's outside of the quarterback. There's so much talent. Do you think that a guy, a day 2, day 3 even quarterback, could be a difference maker in the NFL one day?
Maybe. Ewers, there's 5-star pedigree there. There's a lot of, again, played at a high-pressure environment. The stories about he was more hurt than he let on this year. He held off Arch for 2 years. I mean, that would be my selling point on him. Hey, dude, I held off Arch Manning for 2 years. That's my resume. Everybody wanted Arch to start, and I had to go out there and perform. That's probably easier than what he'll encounter as an NFL backup to start. I mean, the arm's there. It's just when you guys, and I know you guys, we've talked about this before, when Quinn was inconsistent, it was really inconsistent. And that was hard to figure out throughout his college career.
What happened to Jackson Dart?
I know. That's a good one, Jason. I think he should be a first-round guy. I like the way that he throws the deep ball. I like his mobility. He was a playmaker at Ole Miss. If I stacked up the quarterbacks how I would do it as NFL GMs, I think Cam Ward's one. I think the Giants should take Shedeur. I do. And then I think either the Saints or the Steelers should take a long look at Jackson Dart as that first-round quarterback. But in some of these mocks, I won't be surprised if he falls to day 2, even though I think it's a little bit unjustified.
Well, the sports books certainly think that there's a chance that NFL franchises want to take him over Shedeur. He's plus 185 to be the second quarterback taken after Cam Ward in this draft. So Shedeur Sanders minus 195, but they're not ruling out Jackson Dart at plus 185. And I think that's very interesting because, Bill, on Wednesday morning, we saw Peter Schrager put out his mock draft, and I think he actually had Jackson Dart going in the first round. I don't remember whether it was to the Saints or the Steelers, but definitely interesting there. We only have a couple minutes left, but we didn't get to talk about Tyler Warren. It seems like everyone's come around on him being a top 10 pick, and it's basically the Jets who are going to take him. Do you think that he fits in New York? Or is he the kind of guy who needs to go into an offense that's already productive and add to it?
That's a good fit, I think, because Tyler Warren's such an interesting prospect. I don't know that he'll be that, 20 yards down the field guy, but he was automatic in the short passing game. And by short, I mean 10-yard passes. You got 3rd and 8, throw to Tyler Warren. And I think he will be that guy at the next level. The Wildcat dimension is interesting, and he's a fun player. It's easy to rally around fun players. A second dated reference for you, Sam. He reminds me of, you'd have to go way back in the time machine to find, and Jason knows who he is with that helmet back there, Mark Bavaro.
Oh, yeah.
That's who he reminds me of. Like a throwback tight end, catches the short passes, can drag a defender a couple yards, and Bavaro's a long way from, that was my childhood, but he's got that kind of vibe to him, and those kind of players are fun to watch.
Yeah, and we'll see how it all plays out with the draft on Thursday night in Green Bay, round 1. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bill Bender, I always appreciate you, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us. I know it's going to be a busy couple of days for you. Thank you.
Hey, anytime, guys. Thanks. It's good to be back on with you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, that does it for us. This Wednesday edition of Sports Wrap is in the books. Thank you, Nick Ferguson. Thank you to Bill Bender. Thank you, Kurt Helin. Thanks to all of you for watching. We're back with you on Thursday. More draft coverage then. David Ardsma will join us, former MLB hurler. His weekly baseball spot with us. That's it for Sports Wrap. We'll see you tomorrow.